Welcome to The Cross in the Classroom, Educating with Eternal Values, the podcast where faith and education come together. Join us every 2 weeks as we connect with the inspiring voices of Valor Christian High School, teachers, students, and leaders, sharing stories of growth, purpose, and the eternal values that guide our community. We're glad you're here.
Welcome to another episode of The Cross in the Classroom, a podcast of Valor Christian High School. If you'd like to learn more information about Valor Christian, then please visit our website at valorchristian.com. And if you're a parent wondering if Valor is the right fit for your family, please click on the link in the description to download our free parent guide. Today we talk with Keith Wahl, Athletic Director at Valor Christian High School, for a conversation about what truly sets Valor's athletic program apart. While the headlines often focus on state championships and national rankings, Keith takes us behind the scenes to explore the process of athlete development, spiritually, athletically, and socially. Keith shares the intentional steps Valor has taken to build a culture where sports are more than competition. They're acts of worship and personal growth. From the integration of faith and athletics to innovations in sports science and injury prevention to the supportive role of coaches and the opportunities available for athletes at every level, you'll get an inside look at how Valor nurtures not just champions, but well-rounded individuals. Plus, hear about new sports offerings like gymnastics, unique traditions like fifth quarter worship nights, and the dynamic pathway from high school to collegiate and even professional sports. Whether you're a parent, coach, or student considering the Valor experience, this episode will give you a heartfelt and practical perspective on what it means to play and grow at one of the nation's top Christian high school athletic programs. Let's get started with Keith Wahl. Keith, I love to talk sports, of course. Just being here at the school, we all like to talk sports. But I really want to talk today about the program, about what it means to be an athlete at Valor. It's not just about winning state championships, but what the program looks like and how you've built it and the development of athletes.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the question because I do think a lot of times people only look at the shiny object at the end, whether that be a championship or headlines and all those things. But they miss out on so many of the things that are process oriented that lead to those things. And I want to actually just pause real quick and just say great gratitude to Rod Sherman, who was our first athletic director, Kurt Unruh, who was our first head of school. There were things that were laid as a part of our foundation that are allowing for the success that we see today. And that includes then also Jamie Heiner, Brian Bond, the athletic directors who came before me. We were all scratching on this idea of what is the process that will allow this whole school, this whole community, influence through excellence, excellence in all things. That's excellence in every program. And now we're starting to see the fruit of that. And so in many ways, it's just making sure that we are paying attention to that process of development that leads to extraordinary results, which, this year is 22nd in the country in the Max Preps Cup, which is just an incredible statement to everything that every one of our coaches and athletes are doing.
There's so much more to it, though. I mean, how many coaches do we have here?
Yeah, so you're talking about 25 head coaches, and then you're talking about a couple hundred assistant coaches who we all go through an extraordinary hiring process for, they all love the Lord and they love the process-oriented component of the things we do in athletics.
And how many athletes we have here.
Oh my gosh. When you're talking about 75% of our student body, roughly, you have 1,100 some odd kids, 75% of that, you do the math. There's a lot of kids who are being developed through athletics.
Sports, we know, it's such a beautiful way to teach worship. It's a beautiful way to teach health. I mean, I could go on and on. There are so many lessons in sports, but let's dive a little deeper into the development of an athlete. What does that look like? What is that process? How do you then train up coaches? Many of them come here very trained, but what is that process?
Yeah, I want to go back to just a definition of the word coach. This is actually a very new concept in all of history that coaches have only really existed for about 150 years. And the word coach itself means to take a person from one place to the next. And it just that's what it is. What is the process of doing that? I think the really great part that we have here is we have a lot of servant leaders who just love to help athletes get from here to here, point A to point B. And that can be athletically, that can be spiritually, that can be socially. So we have so many different pieces and places that kids can do that. Where do you want me to start? If we're talking athletically, we can talk about our incredible sports science team. If we're talking spiritually, we can talk about what Coach Jessica Caldwell and I do in Sport is Worship. Natalie, where do we want to begin? Where do we want to start unpeeling the onion?
Well, let's start with spiritually, because obviously that's a super important part of everything that we do here.
Yep.
And for every athlete to have that as part of their sport, and then to take that beyond here into the real world, or it might be collegiate athletics. Many here at Valor go to play professional sports, we know. So let's talk about the spiritual aspect of that development.
Love to. It's my favorite part of what we get to do here. So about 5 years ago, Coach Jessica Caldwell and I, we started to work together through what we call our Valor Coaches Association. And this was right before COVID. And we were starting to discover, gosh, there just are not a lot of good resources out there to help a coach who really wants to integrate it at the level we desired to. And so we started to scratch on some things together, and then COVID hit. And all of a sudden, we're left with a lot more time on our hands. And one of the things that Coach Jess and I got a chance to do was, by the way, never want to do COVID again by any means. But some of the things we got to do during that time were incredible. So we got invited into a learning opportunity through Baylor University. And Dr. John White was teaching his class online, master's level seminary students, about how to do faith and sport integration. We got to sit in on the class, didn't have to do any of the homework. It was absolutely the best college class you could ever
Don't
imagine.
tell kids that.
Yeah, exactly. It was the absolute best. But what that sparked us was to start thinking differently about how to really bring faith and sport together. Now, and this is just a mountaintop moment, we're coming off of just a week or so ago, Coach Jess and I got to go present at the 4th Global Congress for Sport and Christianity at Baylor University. We got to explain some of the ways that we have intentionally integrated those things. So over the last couple of years, now that Coach Jess has come on full-time, she oversees the spiritual formation of all of our programs. And so we try to find these ways to really make that real and tangible in every single sport. And it looks a little bit different than in golf than it does in football. And that's okay. Like we're fine living in that space, but we want to be really intentional about those things and that messaging and the words that they're hearing. Just like I shared with the staff, worship. If we're talking about one word that captures our entire athletic program, it is worship. We want every kid to experience sport as an act of worship to the Lord, not as unto themselves, which is what the world's going to tell them over and over again. How do they experience sport as an act of worship to the Lord? And that's what we've really tried to not push, but facilitate. How are we making sure that is happening across every one of our sports? What's the fruit of that? These 5th quarter events have been just the most unbelievable thing that you could ever imagine.
Tell everyone what that is if they don't know.
Yeah, so last year we started the 5th quarter event, which is a worship, student testimony, and baptism night after a football game.
It's amazing, by the way.
They have been just blessed by the Lord's favor. And so over the course of 2, we did a 5th quarter after a football game. We'll do another one this year, September 19th, after our first football game against Mullen. And then we'll do another one in the spring as well. But last year we did the 2. The worship by Lifegate was incredible. The student testimonies were precious. But between the 2 events, we had 25 kids choose to get baptized spontaneously on the spot. And the fruit of that we're seeing, and this is not us being the church. I really want us to make sure we understand that component. We know that the capital C church is a big deal, and we want kids to plug in there. But we also know that these athletes, the spaces they play are sacred to them. And so what we're seeing now next week, we have 3 softball girls who want to get baptized down on the softball field. And so we find a way to facilitate that and make that happen. And it's a beautiful thing where they are all of a sudden dedicating their lives to the Lord in a space that is special to them. And hopefully then launching into a life of following Jesus.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's great. Okay, let's talk about the other stuff then.
The other stuff. Bet.
How is Valor different? Many people come here
Sure.
because they know the sport is good. And then they were like, wow, there's a lot of other really great things here.
Yeah.
But how is Valor different? How is our training different?
Mm-hmm.
How are we developing athletes? All these sports. You said 25 sports?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, we just added gymnastics this year.
Really?
So which is, so
26 or are we 25?
yeah. So, which is an incredible thing because, and I want to talk about gymnastics just for 2
Yeah.
seconds, because what I saw, there's never been a private school enter that space. And so think about that. Like if you are a believing family, somebody who loves Jesus, there's never been a place for you to merge gymnastics with your faith. And now there is, and it's us.
That's amazing.
That's a beautiful thing that the Lord sparked. Because at first, last year, when it was brought to my attention, I was like, there's no way. It's going to be too small. And we've got almost 10 girls in year one.
Fantastic.
And now we're going to be competing for the first time on the gymnastics floor, beam, all those kinds of things,
Wow.
and have a great time with it.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, super exciting.
Congratulations.
So sorry for that rabbit trail,
That's
but
okay.
I thought that was a good thing.
That makes 26 sports?
I think that makes 27.
Right? That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So developing at
Yep.
all different levels,
Yep.
even so much as kids who maybe they haven't played a sport, but
That's
they
right.
want to try the club golf program,
Yeah,
or they want to
yeah.
try some of these new things. It's the development at whatever level.
Yep.
What does that look like?
Yeah. Let's peel back from a step even from the sport and underneath that, which I'm proud to talk about our sports science team led by Matt Frederick, who does just a phenomenal job in the implementation and the synergy between what's happening in the weight room and what's happening in the sports medicine. Because what you want is a performance team that is helping kids stay out of injury.
Mm-hmm.
And we implemented some technology last year called Vault sports plates. And so all of our kids do jump tests every week now. And Matt and his team oversee that, coordinate all the workouts. But what that does is it starts to give us indicators of when a kid might end up getting injured. So if all of a sudden on his or her jump test, we're seeing a decline, we're going to adjust their workout appropriately so that they don't then get injured that day, that week, what have you.
Yeah.
And so what we saw last year, in 1 year, we saw a 24% decrease in injury in just 1 year of implementation.
Wow.
And that's across all sports. And all of our kids are really thriving under Matt and his team's leadership now. But that's kind of that base layer. Like you have to, in today's day and age, you cannot compete without lifting, without doing the condition, without doing all of the stuff in order to prepare to play.
Yeah.
And so our sports science team, but led by Matt, is doing just a brilliant job. Then you talk about exceptional coaches, right? And so coaches who pay attention to and care about every single kid in their program. And so I love what Justin Byler, you brought up golf. One of the things that he implemented, and we talked about it at length a couple years ago, he was just feeling a tension of my team's too big to provide a good experience across this many. What if I did this? And so what we did is we created the varsity and JV level program, which he ends up keeping 12 or 13 golfers here. But then he created a club golf experience, and you can tap into that through some different opportunities through Gold Crown and things like that. And that's overseen by Sam Forrester. We now have, between boys and girls, 40 some odd kids playing club golf in the fall and spring, while we still have the highly competitive group over here that makes the cut over here. As these kids are developing, then all of a sudden they get a chance to jump up here if they make.
But they're still developing.
They're making,
And
exactly. And they're making strides, right?
Right.
And I think if there's anything that's getting lost in the club space, which by the way is getting dominated in every single sport, it's getting harder and harder and harder. If we could just help people understand, you got to walk before you run, that an L3 girls soccer experience is just as valuable as a varsity experience or a U16 national whatever over here. There is something to learn from every experience in athletics. And so we have levels underneath each of these 27 sports, and we try to make sure that we offer valuable experiences in each of those lower levels as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that hits on an important point from a parent perspective and an athlete perspective. Sometimes it's intimidating to come to a phenomenal world-class school with world-class things and think, I don't know that I'm good enough, but I want to go to that school. What do you say to that parent? Like, do you still play a sport at the club level? Do you go to a different school because maybe that's better fit for you? Or where does that fit for students here?
I'm so, Natalie, I've been here since these doors opened. I was at the first open house when the library wasn't enclosed. I'm quite biased in this, what I'm going to say. I would want every single kid to give the Valor experience a try. I think there is so much development that can occur. Don't go to another school because you think, oh, I'm not quite good enough to go there. I want us to be known as the development place, spiritually, athletically, socially, with what you do inside of a team. I want every kid to have a Valor experience. I think this is the best place for everybody. And again, entirely biased and love this place to no end and have been here since the beginning. So I for those families that are sitting there going, I don't know if my kid's I don't know if they're quite good enough. That's okay.
Well, it can be intimidating. And that
absolutely.
Anything really good can be intimidating. But
100%.
What I'm hearing you say is there's a space for and development for any athlete.
And that saying, we used to say it a lot more often. I'd like to bring it back. High tide raises all boats. And so if the tide is high, come on, we're going to help your young person raise that boat as well.
Yeah. Give me some more information on what makes your program different. And many people, they just see the trophies,
see the shiny.
But I know we do summer training. Like I have a son who plays volleyball, so they can come here in the summer and do some training, and the weight rooms are different. Like, give us some idea.
Well, I'm going to talk about our coaches. I want to shine a light on them because they're the ones who are guiding the young people during all those sessions. I am so blessed to work with the people I get to work with. They make me laugh. They make me smile every day. And I absolutely love the coaching staff that we have here right now. They bring me a ton of joy, and I think they bring our student athletes a ton of joy. We're going to do some extra things for professional development as a group this year. There's a national organization called the Daily Coach that was started by a really well-known Hall of Famer basketball coach named George Raveling. He's got a whole interesting Wikipedia page if you want to dive in on George Raveling. And then Mike Lombardi, who actually is now the general manager of the North Carolina football team. They started this thing called the Daily Coach. And Mike Lombardi has these really great conversations. They've created a lot of really great content that's available to anybody. You can actually just log in and see it. It's all secular, but what we've now have a chance to do with our coaches to develop them and continue to help them think higher thoughts, which is a big, big deal in my opinion. We have a platform that we're going to get together monthly. We're going to go through some things. Like this month, we're talking about culture, and we're talking about these big ideas of how to create the best cultures. And so Mike Lombardi has a conversation with James Kerr, who wrote this incredible book called Legacy. And our coaches get to listen to about a 15-minute snippet, and then they get to watch another video and then read a little bit. And then this is the part that I love, is that I then take that idea of culture and then I do a biblical integration and I write that, and then we get together and discuss. And we talk about 3 big questions so that they're impacted, so that the kids can get impacted. And what I know is that isn't happening anywhere else in the country, that our coaches are getting developed, they're thinking higher thoughts, they're getting fed into. And that's one of the things that I love about our setup here and some of the special things that we get to do in our athletic program.
It's truly amazing. I mean, having kids that have gone through it, and then of course being here, it's really amazing. The pathway to collegiate sports and even then professional sports. What does that look like here? And that being said, maybe not right for every kid.
Sure.
And sometimes kids, I know they think, well, I have to have that, or that's what I aspire to. But that's not always what's right for every kid. However, we do send a lot of kids to play collegiate sports.
Yeah, we do. And we actually have a unique position here in the assistant athletic director who oversees college recruiting. We're actually hiring for that position right now, but shine a light on Bill Buffton, who established that role, a new role that we kind of made up from scratch, and he really implemented and did a brilliant job. And then
do any other schools do this?
It is very, very, very rare. There may be 1 or 2 others in the country, but it's still kind of related. It's more connected to their college counseling than it is to the athletic department. And I just so deeply love that we resource the athletic department in this way. Yeah, it's a wonderful question. Bill then passed the baton to Zach Wilson, who came to us from the Colorado Rockies, and he did a brilliant job in that role for 2 years. I loved Zach's vision for one day I would really love to have 100 kids get committed to the next level from Valor Christian High School. I think our high is 75 or so, and we're generally at 50 or 60 annually. One of the things that you mentioned is, hey, like college sports might not be right for everybody. Actually, there's a spot for every kid to go play college athletics. I truly believe that. Yeah. But one of the things that I see, and I think it's driven by that, the club culture, it's driven by the NIL culture, it's driven by the me culture. A lot of our kids come here thinking D1 or bust. And I'm just not, I'm not certain that that's the right mindset for anybody. Develop to the highest degree that you can. And now the way that college athletics has changed, all you need to do, just get in the system somewhere. I don't care if it's an NAIA, a D3, a D2, go. Whoever our new person who is going to oversee college recruiting, wherever they get you your spot, go and dominate in that spot and then move up from there. This is going...
That hasn't always been the case.
No, ma'am, it has not. This is a really new movement because of transfer portal, all those kinds of things. This is something now that, okay, when you're 17 and 18 and you're thinking about commitment, you used to think, okay, I'm going to get to my highest level and that's where I'm going to go.
And transferring is risky. And now you're saying that's not.
Yeah. And now it's like, okay, you've actually got to think about your athletic journey as I got another 5 or 6 years to really maximize this thing. How can I do the best I possibly can? I think about Cole Shear from last year. Cole Shear, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year, an incredible guard from the state of Colorado. Where is he? He's at Eastern Washington now. Okay. He's in the mix. Okay. Cole, go up and average 18 to 20 a game up at Eastern Washington. Where's your next step? Is it Gonzaga from there? Those are the things that our people need to be thinking about. So whoever takes that role, whoever gets to serve in that needs to start talking to our people about, okay, you're in the mix.
Yeah.
All right. You're at a D2.
Yeah.
No big deal. Is that where you're going to play the most?
Right.
So that you can have impact and show that you can do it.
Yeah. What I really love about that role and having a daughter who went to play collegiate sports, we went through that. Bill Buffton actually helped her through that process, was what do you want to do with your life?
That's right.
Where do you want to go? Where do you want to live?
That's
what
right.
do you think about these coaches?
Yep.
What's your major? You know,
Yeah.
And you're going to play sports while
That's
you're
right.
there. So it's a comprehensive guidance of that student.
That's right. Yeah. What do you want to do beyond the game?
Yeah. Because we all know
It's
at
gonna
any
end.
moment it could be taken away.
It's going to end at some point in time for every one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a spiritual perspective that
It
we
is.
get to put on it too.
That's right.
That God's in control.
He is, and he has a plan for every single one of us that is all in line with his greater glory. And that is just a beautiful, beautiful thing that we get to incorporate in that process. But I just see one of the things I just continue to be struck by is this generation of parents, and my gosh, do I empathize with them. They've never had a choice for any competitive experience except for a club experience. They have had to pay to play since they were 6. And so there's a higher level of stress. There's a higher level of, there's less patience. How about that? There's less patience for, well, what's next? What have I been paying all this money for? Well, let's hold on a second. There's something good to come from this. Okay. Romans 8:28, right? God works all things for good to those who love him. All right. So you've paid all this money. Okay. And that ended up with a Division III offer. Okay, that's fine. That's where the Lord has them next. And maybe they have them there for 4 years and they find their right major and they find the right part of the country. And they just
thrive in their
sport. And they thrive and you're just like, this is great.
Yeah.
But maybe they go to an NAIA or a Division II or a lower level Division I. And they're like, this isn't quite it. But I had a really great year and I did really well. I think about good stories, Carson Tinney right now, who went to Notre Dame, started as a catcher this last year, was starting his freshman year, tore his ACL, comes back last year and blows it up. Had an unbelievable season. Well, this next year, he's going to be at Texas. You've gotten the transfer portal, and now all of a sudden I want to go I want to go get to the College World Series like my high school teammate Cashel Duggar at UCLA. So now that's kind of the game, but it's also part of their spiritual walk in those next steps, which is just an incredible thing that we get a chance to speak into.
Yeah. Well, and I know his sister as well, and the number of injuries she had playing lacrosse at Michigan, and yet having the spiritual foundation.
That's right.
In knowing, like, maybe I'm here for a different purpose.
And she's coaching at Michigan now. How about that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, how about that?
But on that team, maybe for a different purpose, that God has me here to inspire. And I don't know how many surgeries it was she went through, but just beautiful stories of redemption.
Agree.
All of this. What other goals do you have? I know you always have a lot, but as the program grows, as the number of sports grows, coaches, what other goals do you have for the athletic department?
Yeah, it's a good question, a fair question. I have some like high-minded dreams. Like I wish someday that, and I don't know if this is possible or not, but I've always loved the idea that Kurt Unruh had years ago of what if we had Valors instead of just one Valor, and there was a Valor North, a Valor, those kinds of things. I don't know if that's even possible. That would be incredible to try to repeat some of the things that we have done. That's a high-minded dream. In the shorter term, we have had an extraordinarily consistent amount of success. We've been in that Max Preps top 50 for a few years now. Sure, would we like to be number one in the country at some point? Yeah, but that excitement lasts for about 5 minutes and then it wears off. I would love to see us, and I know my swim coaches are going to love me for saying this. Gosh, can we have our own swimming pool someday? Could we have that so that our swimming program could really expand? Our golf program is already extraordinary. Boy, would I love for them to have their own little space off campus. I think as we dream in the short-term future, how do we expand our footprint? Because what we're doing right now in terms of the systems we have for consistent success, they're in place. So we will continue to hone that machine. But now how can we expand our footprint so that we can, hey, what about having, our cheer program has been unbelievable. Why don't we have our own cheer gym? Let's do that someday. And then, hey, next to the cheer gym, let's have our gymnastics gym. And so again, high-minded thoughts. Yeah. We've got to expand our footprint in order to do that. That's all going to be on Brian Ritz and the board to raise that money. And so hopefully I'm not overstepping in that, but
we can dream.
We can dream. We can dream, and that's okay. But as those consistent measurements for success and honing in on the process, which we have in place right now, I think there's going to be a lot of good things that come from that. Some stabilization in terms of how our community feels about our offerings for development across the board. And then we make that investment and we continue to roll from there.
Your prayer for Valor.
My prayer for Valor is simple, and it's all around that word of worship. May every athlete, may every coach, and may every parent experience sport as an act of worship to the Lord Jesus Christ.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great year. Good luck
appreciate
to
it.
All the sports and all the athletes.
Thank you.
And a healthy year too.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on The Cross in the Classroom, educating with eternal values. We hope today's conversation inspired and encouraged you. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and stay connected with the Valor Christian High School community. Keep living out faith, learning with purpose, and growing in grace. Until next time.